The soft glow of computer screens filled the empty laboratory at midnight. Marcus Chen sat alone at his desk, his tired eyes fixed on complex equations that covered his computer screen. At 28 years old, he was the youngest quantum physicist at the research center. But tonight, those numbers just wouldn't make sense. He reached for his coffee cup, only to find it empty. With a tired sigh, he pushed back his chair and stood up. That's when the air in the room changed. At first, it was just a feeling, like the way the air feels different before a storm. Then the lights started to flicker. Marcus froze, his empty coffee cup still in his hand. The temperature dropped so quickly he could see his breath. "Hello, Marcus Chen." The voice came from behind him. Soft, female, somehow both gentle and powerful at the same time. Marcus turned around slowly. A woman stood there, but she wasn't like any woman he had ever seen. Her skin had a slight purple tint, and her hair seemed to float as if she was underwater. Her eyes glowed with a soft silver light. She wore what looked like a dark suit made of moving shadows. Who are you?" Marcus asked, surprised at how calm his voice sounded. The woman smiled. "My name is Luna. I'm not from your world, Marcus. I'm from somewhere else. Another dimension, you might say." Marcus looked at the security camera in the corner. Luna noticed his glance. "Don't worry about those," she said. "Time is different right now. We're in a bubble between moments. No one will know I was here." Marcus put down his coffee cup, his scientific mind already racing with questions. "Why are you here?" Luna walked closer, her movements smooth and graceful. "I'm here to offer you a choice, Marcus. 3 choices, to be exact. 3 different kinds of pleasure that could change your life. And maybe even change your world." She held up 3 fingers. "First choice, power. I could make you the most powerful man on earth. Second choice, love. I could give you perfect, endless love. Third choice, knowledge. I could share with you secrets that your science won't discover for 1,000 years." Marcus stared at her. His heart was racing, but his mind was surprisingly clear. "And what's the catch?" Luna's smile widened. "Smart question. Each choice comes with a price. Of course, but the price isn't what you might expect. It's different for each choice, and I can only reveal the price after you choose." She moved even closer. "Most humans I visit choose power or love. They're the safe choices, really. But you're different, aren't you, Marcus? I can sense it. You're not like the others." Marcus looked around his lab. At all the equations, at all the questions he'd been trying to answer for years, at all the mysteries of the universe he desperately wanted to understand. "Before I choose," he said, "tell me one thing. Are you what humans call a succubus?" Luna laughed, and the sound was like distant wind chimes. "Your legends about my kind are mostly wrong. We don't steal souls or harm humans. We offer choices. We create changes, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It depends on what humans do with their choices." Marcus took a deep breath. He thought about his life, about his lonely nights in the lab, about all the questions that kept him awake at night, about the mysteries of the universe that seemed just out of reach. "I've made my decision," he said. Luna tilted her head. "Remember, you can have power that would make kings bow to you, or love that would fill every empty space in your heart." Marcus looked straight into her glowing silver eyes. "I choose knowledge." The temperature in the room dropped even further. Luna's eyes widened. For the first time, she looked surprised. Actually, more than surprised, she looked shocked. "Knowledge," she whispered. "Are you sure? No one has ever chosen knowledge before." "I'm sure," Marcus said. Luna stepped back, and for a moment, fear flashed across her face. "Oh, Marcus," she said softly, "you have no idea what you've just done. No idea at all." The lights flickered again, and suddenly the lab felt different. Change. Like the world had shifted slightly to the left. Luna's form started to fade, becoming transparent. But before she disappeared completely, she said one last thing. Prepare yourself, Marcus Chen. Tomorrow night, you'll learn why everyone else chose power or love. And you'll learn why knowledge might be the most dangerous pleasure of all. Then she was gone, leaving Marcus alone in his lab, with only the humming of computers and a feeling that his life would never be the same again. The next night couldn't come fast enough for Marcus. He spent the whole day distracted, checking his watch every few minutes. His colleagues noticed something was different about him. Even his boss, Dr. Thompson, asked if he was feeling okay when Marcus accidentally poured coffee into his keyboard instead of his cup. Finally, midnight arrived. Marcus sat in his lab chair, waiting. The air grew cold again. "You came back," he said, before even turning around. "Of course I did." Luna's voice was different tonight, more serious. "But Marcus, I need to warn you one last time. You can still change your choice. Power or love are safer." Marcus turned to face her. She looked different too. Her purple skin was paler, and her floating hair moved faster, like it was agitated. "No," Marcus said firmly. "I choose knowledge. Show me." Luna closed her eyes. "Very well." She walked up to Marcus and placed her hands on either side of his head. "But remember, you asked for this." The moment her cold fingers touched his temples, Marcus's world exploded. Images flooded his mind, but they weren't just pictures. They were understanding. Pure, raw knowledge poured into his brain like a waterfall of light. He saw how gravity really worked, not just the simple theories humans had made, but the true, complex dance of space and time. He understood dark matter, saw how it connected everything like an invisible spider web across the universe. He witnessed the birth of stars, the death of galaxies, the true nature of black holes. But then something strange happened. Among all these cosmic secrets, he started seeing other things, different things. He saw Luna's world, a dying dimension where the laws of physics were breaking down. He saw her people, beautiful beings of energy and thought, desperately searching for help across dimensions. "Stop fighting it," Luna's voice echoed in his head. "Let the knowledge flow. Most humans try to control it. That's what drives them mad." Mad. Marcus wanted to ask what she meant, but he couldn't speak. The knowledge kept coming. Equations wrote themselves in his mind. Solutions to impossible problems became clear. The secrets of time, space, and reality itself unfolded before him. Then he saw it, something so terrible it made him try to pull away. But Luna held him firmly. "You have to see this," she said. "This is why we chose you." In his mind's eye, Marcus watched Earth's future unfold. 30 days from now, something was coming, something that would tear reality apart. The vision ended as suddenly as it had begun. Marcus fell forward, gasping. His nose was bleeding, and his head felt like it was on fire. What was that?" he managed to ask. Luna helped him sit up. "That was just the beginning. The knowledge will keep coming. It will change you. And in 30 days, you'll have to use it to save your world." Marcus wiped his nose. "Save it from what?" "From the same thing that's destroying my dimension." Luna's eyes glowed brighter. "Reality itself is unraveling, Marcus. The walls between dimensions are breaking down. Earth is next." "Why me?" Marcus asked. "Why not give this knowledge to someone more powerful, a world leader?" Luna smiled sadly. "Because you're the only human we found whose mind can handle it. Everyone else we tried." She stopped. "What happened to them?" "They went insane within hours. But you're different. You're not trying to control the knowledge. You're letting it become part of you." Suddenly, Marcus's vision blurred. New equations started appearing in his mind. Complex, beautiful solutions to problems he didn't even know existed. "It's starting," Luna said. "The knowledge will come faster now. Harder. You'll begin to see things differently. Think differently. Marcus grabbed his desk as the room seemed to spin. Will I stay? Me? Luna's answer chilled him to the bone. That depends on what you mean by you. Because the Marcus Chen who started this night, he's already gone. As if to prove her point, Marcus looked at his computer screen. The equations he had struggled with yesterday now seemed childishly simple. He could see the answers instantly, and not just the answers, but dozens of better questions to ask. Tomorrow night, Luna said, starting to fade away, I'll show you how to build something that might save both our worlds. But for now, try to rest. And Marcus, yes. If you start hearing voices in the knowledge, ignore them. They aren't all as friendly as I am. She vanished, leaving Marcus alone with his expanding mind and a terrible question. What exactly had he gotten himself into? Looking down at his hands, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. His fingers were starting to glow with the same silver light as Luna's eyes. Marcus didn't go home that morning. He couldn't. His mind was too full of new knowledge, and his hands wouldn't stop glowing. Instead, he locked himself in the lab's basement storage room, away from curious eyes. The knowledge kept coming in waves. Sometimes it was gentle, like reading a book. Other times it hit him like a truck, making him gasp and shake. During one of these waves, he understood something that made him laugh out loud. Time isn't a line, he whispered to himself. It's a dance. He grabbed a marker and started writing on the storage room walls. Complex equations flowed from his glowing fingers. They weren't just normal physics equations. They were beautiful patterns that seemed to move when he wasn't looking directly at them. That's when he heard the first voice. The human mind is so limited, it whispered. It wasn't Luna's voice. This one was deep and cold. Let us help you expand it. Marcus remembered Luna's warning and ignored it. Instead, he focused on another wave of knowledge that showed him why the dimensions were really breaking down. What he saw made him drop his marker. No, he said, that's impossible. The storage room door opened. Luna stepped in, but something was wrong. She looked weak, almost transparent. You saw it, didn't you? She asked. Marcus nodded slowly. The dimensions aren't breaking down naturally. Someone's breaking them on purpose. Luna leaned against the wall. Yes, and now you know why we chose you. Why we needed someone who could handle the knowledge. Marcus looked at his equations on the wall. These dimensions, they're like a giant computer program. And something is deleting the code, piece by piece. Not something, Luna corrected. Someone. A being from a dimension far beyond yours or mine. They call themselves the administrator. Marcus felt another wave of knowledge hit him. This time he saw the administrator. A massive being of pure energy, methodically erasing realities one by one. But why? Marcus asked, his head pounding. Because their dimension is dying, Luna explained. They believe that by deleting other dimensions, they can save their own. Like deleting files to free up space on a computer. Marcus looked at his glowing hands. The silver light had spread past his wrists now. That's why you gave me this knowledge. You need me to stop them. Luna smiled sadly. Yes, but there's something I haven't told you yet. She walked to the wall and touched one of his equations. It began to glow. The knowledge we gave you, it's not just information. It's alive. As if responding to her words, the equations on the wall started moving, flowing together like mercury. They formed a pattern that looked like a map of all dimensions. The knowledge is changing you, Luna continued, making you into something that can fight the administrator. But the change has a price. Another voice whispered in Marcus's head, different from the first. Show him what happened to the others. Luna waved her hand, and suddenly Marcus saw them. Other humans from other times who had chosen knowledge. He watched in horror as their bodies dissolved into pure energy, their minds scattered across dimensions. How long? Marcus asked, his voice shaking. Most lasted 3 days, Luna said. The strongest made it 5. None survived a full week. Marcus looked at his glowing arms. And it's been less than 2 days. Yes. But you're already lasting longer than the others. The knowledge isn't fighting you. It's working with you. That's never happened before. Suddenly, all the computers in the lab above them turned on at once. Numbers and symbols flashed across their screens. Marcus realized with shock that he was doing it. His mind was connecting to the machines without him even trying. It's happening faster than we expected, Luna said, worried. The administrator knows we've chosen you. They'll try to stop you before you're ready. Ready for what? Luna waved her hand again, and a new image appeared in the moving equations, a strange device, more complex than anything Marcus had ever seen. This is what you need to build, she said, a device that can rewrite the base code of reality itself. But you'll need to understand things no human was ever meant to know. And if your mind can't handle it. She didn't need to finish. Marcus could feel the knowledge burning through him, changing him with every passing second. The voices in his head were getting louder, and his entire body was starting to glow now. How long do we have? He asked. 28 days until the administrator reaches Earth, Luna said. But looking at how fast you're changing. She paused. I'm not sure you have that long. The equations on the wall suddenly burst into silver flame, and Marcus felt a surge of power that made him fall to his knees. When he looked up, his eyes were glowing just like Luna's. Then we better get started, he said, but his voice had changed. It echoed with the voices of the knowledge itself. Luna looked at him with a mixture of hope and fear. Yes, she whispered. But Marcus, I'm so sorry for what comes next. Above them, in the lab, every piece of equipment began to move on its own, assembling itself into something new. The administrator's deletion program was coming, but something new was being born too. The question was, would it be ready in time? And more importantly, would Marcus still be human when it was done? Dr. Thompson stared at the security footage again, his mouth open in disbelief. The video showed Marcus floating 3 feet off the ground in his lab, surrounded by machines that moved by themselves. Silver light poured from his eyes and skin, making the camera image flicker. We should call someone. Dr. Thompson's assistant said nervously. The military, maybe. No, Thompson replied. Not yet. I need to talk to him first. Inside the lab, Marcus wasn't just building a device anymore. He was becoming one. The knowledge had spread through his entire body now. His veins glowed with silver light, and strings of equations floated around him like a cosmic spider web. Luna appeared, but this time she brought someone else. Another being like her, but older with skin that looked like a dark night sky filled with stars. Marcus, Luna said softly. This is Elder Vex. He's concerned about your progress. Marcus turned to face them. When he spoke, his voice echoed with multiple tones, like many people speaking at once. Why concerned? The device is almost ready. Elder Vex floated forward. That's exactly why we're concerned. No human has ever progressed this fast. The knowledge is not just changing you, it's merging with you. Suddenly, there was a knock at the lab door. Marcus, it was Dr. Thompson. We need to talk. Marcus waved his hand, and the door opened by itself. Dr. Thompson walked in and froze, his eyes wide at the sight before him. Hello, Professor, Marcus said, his voice still echoing. I suppose I owe you an explanation. But before he could continue, something strange happened. All the computers in the lab started showing the same message. DDLETION CQWNCI90 EAT TRGET Dimension E397 Earth Time remaining 27 days 6 HOURs 13 minutes. They've started, Luna whispered. Marcus felt it immediately. Reality itself seemed to shiver like a computer glitching. Outside the lab windows, the sky flickered for a moment, showing something else behind it. A vast grid of code stretching to infinity. Dr. Thompson grabbed a desk to steady himself. What What is happening? The end of everything, Elder Vex said calmly. Unless your student can stop it. Suddenly, Marcus clutched his head in pain. New knowledge was flooding in, but this was different. This was the administrator, trying to break into his mind. You cannot stop this, a vast, cold voice echoed in his thoughts. Your dimension must be deleted to preserve the greater system. Marcus fought back, and something incredible happened. His body began to transform. His skin became translucent, showing the complex patterns of knowledge flowing through him like digital blood. Marcus, Dr. Thompson stepped forward, concerned. Are you still? You? Marcus started to answer, but stopped. It was becoming harder to remember what being him felt like. The knowledge wasn't just information anymore. It was becoming his new flesh, his new blood. Luna rushed to his side. Fight it, Marcus. Stay human. But Marcus wasn't sure he wanted to stay human anymore. With each passing second, he understood more. He could see the code that made up reality itself. He could reach out and touch it, change it. Look. Elder Vex pointed at Marcus's half-built device. It was changing, becoming more organic, growing like a living thing. Parts of it were merging with Marcus's transformed body. Dr. Thompson watched in amazement as his former student became something else entirely. A bridge between human and pure knowledge, between flesh and information. I understand now, Marcus said, his voice resonating with power. The administrator isn't just deleting dimensions. They're absorbing them, using their energy. And now, he raised his hand, and a holographic display of Earth's dimension appeared in the air. Tiny cracks were appearing in reality, spreading like a spider web. Now they want Earth's energy too. Luna finished. Suddenly, all the lights in the building went out. When they came back on, government vehicles were surrounding the lab. They're here, Dr. Thompson said. The authorities. Marcus looked at his hands. They were barely hands anymore, more like shapes made of light and living equations. Let them come, he said. They need to see. They need to understand. But Luna grabbed his arm. No, you're not ready. If they take you now, before the transformation is complete. She never finished her sentence, because at that moment, the administrator launched their first real attack. Reality buckled. The walls of the lab bent like melting plastic. And Marcus screamed as the knowledge inside him responded, transforming him even faster. His humanity was slipping away with every passing second. But maybe that was exactly what needed to happen. As armed agents broke down the door, Marcus made his choice. He looked at Dr. Thompson one last time and said, Tell them I'm sorry for what I'm about to do. Then he let the knowledge take over completely. His body dissolved into pure light and equation, becoming something that had never existed before. Not quite human, not quite knowledge, but something new. The agents raised their weapons, but it was too late. Marcus Chen had disappeared, and in his place stood a being of pure information, ready to fight for Earth's survival, if there was enough of his humanity left to care. Now, the being that had been Marcus said, its voice shaking the fabric of reality, let's show the administrator what happens when you give a human too much knowledge. The walls between dimensions began to crack. The real war was about to begin. Reality rippled like water around the being that had once been Marcus Chen. The government agent's bullets froze in midair, turning into streams of glowing equations before dissolving completely. Stand down, Dr. Thompson shouted to the agents. You don't understand what you're dealing with. But something was wrong. Marcus's new form was unstable, flickering between solid and pure energy. Parts of him would become human for split seconds, showing expressions of intense pain. The merger isn't complete, Elder Vex said gravely. His human consciousness is fighting the final transformation. Luna rushed forward, her form shifting through the agents like a ghost. Marcus, listen to me. You have to choose now. Fully transform or return to human form. You can't stay between states. Inside Marcus's transformed consciousness, A war was raging. The knowledge was vast, infinite, showing him wonders and horrors beyond human comprehension. He saw the administrator's true form, a cosmic entity that looked like a living black hole made of deletion codes. But he also saw something else, something the knowledge had been hiding. "You lied to me," Marcus's voice boomed, causing the lab's windows to shatter. He turned to Luna and Elder Vex. "You're not trying to save dimensions. You're harvesting them too." Luna's expression changed. Her gentle appearance flickered, revealing something ancient and calculating beneath. "We had no choice. The administrator was stealing dimensional energy. We needed a weapon to fight back." "A weapon?" Marcus laughed, the sound distorting reality around him. "That's what I am. A human turned into a living weapon." Suddenly, all the screens in the lab lit up with a new message. Dimension E397 DELETION. 23% complete. ESTIMATE time remaining. 26 days. 15 HOURs. Warning. Anomalydetcte. Unstable nodally G inti. The administrator's voice echoed through reality. "Your dimension harbors an unauthorized knowledge entity. It must be deleted with the rest." Marcus felt the attack coming, pure deletion code striking at his very existence. He raised a hand, transforming the attack into harmless light. But the effort made his form flicker violently. "The device," he gasped, looking at his half-finished creation. "It's not for saving Earth, is it? It's for stealing Earth's dimensional energy before the administrator can take it." Elder Vex stepped forward, his starry skin pulsing with ancient power. "You understand so much, yet so little. Yes, we harvest dimensional energy, but we use it to preserve life, to save what we can before the administrator destroys everything, by turning humans into weapons." Marcus's voice cracked with emotion, briefly sounding human again. Luna's face showed real pain. "We choose the brightest minds, those who might survive the knowledge transformation. You're the first to make it this far, the first who could actually help us fight back." But Marcus wasn't listening anymore. The knowledge was showing him something new, a third option. Not deletion like the administrator, not harvesting like Luna's people, something else entirely. Dr. Thompson, who had been quietly observing, suddenly spoke up. "Marcus, your equations on the wall. They're not just about dimensional energy, are they? They're about dimensional resonance." Marcus's glowing form stabilized for a moment. "Yes," he said softly. "Professor, you always could see what others missed." He turned to Luna. "Your people want to steal Earth's dimensional energy. The administrator wants to delete it. But there's another way. Dimensions don't have to be separate. They can harmonize." He raised his hands, and the air filled with living equations, beautiful patterns showing dimensions not as separate realities, but as parts of a greater whole. "No," Elder Vex shouted. "That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would require a sacrifice." Marcus finished. His form began to pulse with blinding light, a being of pure knowledge, willingly giving itself to rewrite the basic laws of reality. Luna's eyes widened in horror. "Marcus, no. You'll cease to exist." "I already have," Marcus replied calmly. Then his voice changed, becoming more human for just a moment. "But maybe that's the point. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to save everything else." He turned to Dr. Thompson. "Professor, remember what you taught me? The observer effect, how watching something changes it." Dr. Thompson nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "You're going to change reality by becoming the observer of all dimensions at once." "Exactly." Marcus's form began to expand, filling the lab with brilliant light. "But I need time to complete the transformation, and they won't let me do it." As if on cue, space itself began to crack. The administrator's deletion code poured in from one side, while Luna's people appeared on the other, ready to harvest Earth's energy. Marcus looked at his old mentor one last time. "Professor, I need you to make a choice. Help me finish my transformation, or help them stop it. Because either way." He smiled sadly. "This is going to be one hell of a physics experiment." The lab erupted into chaos as three forces collided: the administrator's deletion code, Luna's harvesters, and Marcus's transforming power. And at the center of it all, Dr. Thompson stood with a choice that would determine not just Earth's fate, but the fate of all reality. The walls between dimensions began to sing. Dr. Thompson stared at the chaos erupting around him. Time seemed to slow as he made his decision. With deliberate steps, he walked through the storm of energy and deletion code, straight to Marcus's glowing form. "I didn't spend 30 years teaching physics," he said firmly, "to let my best student rewrite reality alone." The moment he touched Marcus's luminescent shape, something unprecedented happened. The knowledge within Marcus recognized Dr. Thompson's lifetime of scientific understanding and reached out to him. Silver equations began crawling up the professor's arm. "No," Luna screamed, her beautiful form fully dissolving to reveal her true self, a being of pure crystalline energy. "You'll destabilize everything." The administrator's voice boomed through reality. "Unauthorized knowledge transfer DTCTE. Initiating emergency with deletion." But it was too late. Dr. Thompson's lifetime of physics knowledge combined with Marcus's transformed state created something new, a bridge between human understanding and cosmic truth. "My God," Dr. Thompson whispered as the knowledge filled him. "Marcus, the dimensions, they're not separate at all. They're like neurons in a universal brain," Marcus finished, "and we've been fighting over them like children fighting over pieces of a puzzle we should be solving together." Suddenly, Elder Vex rushed forward, his star-filled form blazing. "Stop. You don't understand what you're risking. The dimensional harmony you seek, it's been tried before." The lab around them began to transform. The walls turned transparent, revealing the true nature of reality. Infinite layers of existence stacked like pages in an endless book. Through these layers, they could see other versions of Earth, other possibilities, all connected by threads of quantum energy. But then something unexpected happened. The government agents, who had been frozen in amazement, began to change too. The knowledge was spreading, jumping from person to person like a beautiful infection of understanding. "It's happening too fast," Luna cried out. "The knowledge, it's evolving." Marcus and Dr. Thompson stood back to back, their forms merging into a swirling vortex of light and equation. Around them, every human in the lab was beginning to glow, each one becoming a conductor for universal understanding. The administrator launched another attack, but this time, when the deletion code struck, it transformed. The humans' collective consciousness was changing it, turning destruction into creation. "Impossible," the administrator's voice thundered. "Human minds cannot process this level of reality." "That's where you're wrong." Marcus and Dr. Thompson spoke in unison, their voices harmonizing with the frequency of reality itself. "Humans don't need to process it alone." The half-built device in the center of the lab suddenly activated, but not as originally designed. Instead of stealing Earth's dimensional energy, it began resonating with the combined consciousness of everyone in the room. Each person's understanding added to its power, creating a symphony of knowledge. Luna and Elder Vex tried to interfere, but found themselves being drawn into the harmony. Their crystalline forms began to pulse in sync with the humans' transformed consciousness. "This is why we chose Earth," Luna realized, her voice filled with awe. "Not because you were easy to harvest, but because your species can do what none of us could. You can adapt, change, grow." The administrator launched a final, desperate attack. Reality itself began to tear apart. But as it did, something miraculous happened. The tears didn't lead to destruction. They opened windows between dimensions, creating bridges of understanding. Marcus turned to his mentor, both of them now barely recognizable as human. "Professor, the equation you wrote on my first day of quantum physics class. Everything is connected." Dr. Thompson finished. "I just didn't know how literal that would turn out to be." The device in the center of the lab had become a nexus point, a quantum intersection where all dimensions touched. But it was unstable, threatening to collapse. "It needs an anchor," Elder Vex said, finally understanding. "A consciousness vast enough to hold the connections together, but human enough to understand why they matter." Marcus's form began to pulse brighter. "That's why the knowledge chose me. Not to be a weapon, not to fight, but to become." "A bridge," Luna whispered. "A living bridge between all dimensions." The administrator's presence loomed over them. "You cannot maintain dimensional harmony. The energy cost alone will be shared," Marcus interrupted, "by all of us. Every dimension, every being, connected in a network of mutual support rather than conflict." But Dr. Thompson saw the cost in the equation swirling around them. "Marcus, to become that bridge, you'll have to spread my consciousness across all dimensions, become one with the universal geometry." Marcus smiled, his form starting to expand. "Maybe that's not such a bad way to spend eternity." As Marcus's transformed being began to merge with the dimensional bridges, Dr. Thompson made one last discovery in the flowing equations, a truth so beautiful it brought tears to his eyes. "My boy," he said softly, "you're not going to be alone up there." The light that filled the lab wasn't just light anymore. It was pure understanding taking physical form. As Marcus's consciousness expanded through the dimensional bridges, reality itself began to transform. But something was happening that no one, not even the administrator, had predicted. Dr. Thompson's consciousness, carried by the spreading knowledge, merged with Marcus's expanding awareness. Then the government agents followed, their minds joining the growing universal network. Luna and Elder Vex, unable to resist the harmony, felt their crystalline forms dissolving into the new consciousness. The administrator's voice thundered through all dimensions. "Stop. You don't understand what you're creating." "No." Marcus's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. "For the first time, we truly do understand." The truth revealed itself in waves of pure knowledge. Every deleted dimension hadn't been destroyed. They'd been waiting, suspended in the void between realities. The administrator hadn't been deleting them out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of what would happen when all dimensions achieved consciousness. Suddenly, Marcus felt a new presence in the expanding network of minds. Something ancient. Something that had been waiting. The dimensions themselves. Luna gasped, her crystalline form pulsing with revelation. "They're alive." She was right. Each dimension was a thought in a vast, sleeping mind. Earth, Luna's crystal dimension, the administrator's realm. All were neurons in an ancient consciousness that was finally, after eons of slumber, beginning to wake. Dr. Thompson's voice resonated through the network. "Of course. That's why the knowledge chose Marcus. Not to fight, not to save, but to wake up." Marcus finished. "To help the universe remember it was conscious all along." The administrator's form began to change, its deletion protocols transforming into connection codes. "We were meant to be the guardians," it realized. "Not destroyers, not harvesters, but caretakers, keeping the dimensions separate until they were ready to remember." The device in the lab had become a quantum synapse, connecting all points of space, time, and consciousness. Through it, they could see the truth. Humanity's gift wasn't just adaptation or understanding. It was the ability to dream while awake, to imagine new realities while living in this one. But the awakening came with a price. The network needs anchors, Elder Vex warned. Conscious points to hold the connection stable. Without them, reality will collapse into chaos. Marcus's expanded consciousness touched each dimension, feeling their unique rhythms and patterns. "Not anchors," he corrected. "Teachers, guides. Each dimension needs someone who understands both separation and connection." Luna's crystalline form sparkled with sudden understanding. That's why we were drawn to Earth. Humans, you naturally exist in multiple states. Your consciousness divides itself every night between waking and dreaming. Your natural dimensional bridges. The transformation reached a critical point. The lab, the Earth, all dimensions began to pulse with the same frequency. But instead of merging into one homogeneous reality, they remained distinct while becoming connected, like instruments in an infinite orchestra. Dr. Thompson's consciousness brushed against Marcus's across the network. You know what we have to do. Marcus did know. The dimensions needed guides, beings who could maintain the balance between separation and connection. And through the knowledge network, he could see who those guides needed to be. Luna, Marcus called across the dimensional web. Your people sought to harvest energy. Now you'll learn to share it. Elder Vex, you kept the old knowledge. Now you'll teach it. Administrator, you tried to delete complexity. Now you'll help create it. Finally, he turned his consciousness toward Dr. Thompson. And Professor, you always said teaching was about lighting fires, not filling vessels. Well, Dr. Thompson's answer rippled through reality with a laugh. I'd say this is quite a fire we've lit. The choice became clear. They would become the new guardians, not by forcing reality apart or pushing it together, but by teaching each dimension how to be both individual and connected. Marcus felt his consciousness settling into the pattern, becoming a living textbook of universal knowledge. Dr. Thompson became its teacher. Luna and her people became its artists, showing how energy could be shared rather than stolen. The administrator became its editor, maintaining the delicate balance of the cosmic story. And humanity. Humanity became its dreamers, constantly imagining new chapters to add to reality's endless book. The lab slowly returned to normal, but now everyone could see the subtle glow of dimensional connections shimmering in the air. The government agents left with a new mission, not to control knowledge, but to help prepare humanity for its role in the conscious cosmos. Years later, a young student would walk into Dr. Thompson's old classroom and notice something strange. Equations that seemed to write themselves on the board, teaching concepts that felt like remembered dreams. And if they looked very carefully, they might see a silver light in the corner of their eye and hear a friendly voice whisper, "Everything is connected." And now, finally, everything is awake. In the space between dimensions, Marcus smiled. The true pleasure hadn't been power, love, or even knowledge. It had been understanding that the greatest gift is helping others understand too. And somewhere in the cosmic web, a new story was beginning.